After an underwhelming performance in Thursday's debate, President Biden continues facing calls to drop out of the 2024 presidential race. Some of those calling for him to step aside are members of his own party.
Our Ethan Kibbe is joining us now here in the studio with local reaction to that very idea. Ethan, along with a look at new polling data that you found showing what voters think after the debate. Good evening.
Mike and Eva, the data we're about to look at comes from a new CBS poll. Earlier this month, voters were polled, and then they were polled after the debate. So let's take a look at some of this data. And we'll start with this question. Among voters, they were asked, does President Biden have the necessary cognitive and mental health to be president for 4 more years? Before the debate, 35% of voters said yes, 65% said no. Look at this. After the debate, just 27% of the voters polled say they think the president has the necessary cognitive skills to serve for 4 more years. 72% of the voters polled, more than 1,000 voters were polled in this, by the way. This is not a small sample size. 72% say they don't think the president has the necessary mental and cognitive skills to be president. So then voters were asked, well, should the president be running for re-election? Before the debate, 63%, so still a lot, said no. But after the debate, 72%, almost 3/4 of those polled said they don't think the president should be running again. By the way, this is not just members of the Republican Party, because that same question, when posed just to Democrats, here's a look at the results. Before the debate, 64% of Democrats said, yes, the president should run. But now that number down to just 54%. 46% of Democrats, almost half of them, saying they don't think the president should be running again. So we took a look at this data and we asked the head of the local Young Democrats and a local historian, what do they think? Should the president run for re-election?
If you were a baseball player, you can bring up a guy from AA and they can go 3 for 4. But eventually they're going to be hitting below 200. And so you send them down. I mean, this is the presidency. This is the major leagues. You need to hit over 300. And President Biden is not capable of hitting over 300 when it comes to the public arena.
I would tell him that it's ultimately his decision, whether, he thinks his candidacy is in the best interests of the country. Because, look, he's the leader of the Democratic Party, not me. And, I can speculate, and the pundits can speculate about who's most likely to win in November. But what we know is that there's only one person who's beaten President Trump in the past, and that's President Biden.
One really important thing to note from this data, just because voters think perhaps the president shouldn't be running again, that doesn't mean that they won't vote for him. Both the president and former President Trump have run campaigns that are largely, hey, I'm not perfect, I'm better than my opponent. We'll see what voters think come this fall, but no question, damage control mode right now in the Biden campaign, and calls exist for the president to drop out of the race. We'll see what happens. More on this on Erie News Now at 6. Ethan Kibbe, Erie News Now.